Okay. If you're looking for a steady flow of energy, laser-like focus, and productivity that leaves people wondering how you're doing it, you're going to love my guest, Amy Pawliuk. Amy, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's absolutely a pleasure. So, I know you guys might be wondering, once we get into this, what does nutrition and timeline jumping have in common? But here's the deal. If you're lagging through life, if you're like dragging around and if you can't fuel your body, right? If you can't nourish yourself to fuel your body to get you to do what it needs to do, you're not going to be able to do any of the other cool stuff. And it's why I've brought Amy on because I absolutely love her perspective on nutrition and how she approaches things. So, Amy, I was wondering if you could tell me in a world full of crazy diet info, right? Like we're all kind of confused. You can be carnivore, you can be vegan, you can be vegetarian, you can be everything in between. How do we cut out the noise and know what our bodies are truly asking for?
It can be really hard to start. We all grew up in diet culture, being told things and taught things that really don't hold true and don't fuel our bodies in a way that really serve what we're asking them to do. And knowing the difference between that, because what you're taught growing up is your belief system until you learn something else that replaces it.
Yeah.
We don't know what's out there. If you Google something, you can find an answer for to prove anything that you want to prove. So really, it's completely useless. It's really boils down to what goes with your beliefs and what makes you feel good. So, like, if something makes you feel like garbage, I'm not going to tell you to do it, even though it worked for Susie, it might not work for Bob. Like, we're all very individual people who are where we are because of completely different lives. So, what we need is not going to be the same person as, or the same thing as the person next to you, even if it's a sibling that grew up in the same household as you. You could have very different nutritional needs to fit what you're asking your body to do and really to handle what your body has already been through.
That's a really good point. There, you know what? You're right. Google is garbage now because you can find
Yeah.
anything to prove anything.
Absolutely. Just like microwaves, for example. There is a lot of science that proves that they suck and you shouldn't use them. And there's
Mhm.
an equal amount of science that says, no, they're fine, go for it. So, like, it doesn't matter what you're trying to prove, there's stuff out there to prove your point. So, really, it boils down to what's going to serve you best. And that's hard to figure out on your own. So
It
I really
really
like helping people put together, I call it their people puzzle. All of the little pieces that you need to feel your best and do what you need to do, and figure out how to find your next piece. Because you can't look at the whole puzzle at once, you get overwhelmed. But if we figure out which piece you need next, we
yeah.
work on that piece.
Okay, so that's how your approach is different, right? Is by adding these things piece by piece and looking at you as a whole.
Yeah, and as an individual,
Yeah.
right? So, like, if you do too much at once, realistically, most people are going to fail. You're going to do great for a week, two, maybe a couple months.
Yeah.
But when you try to change too much too fast,
Yeah.
your nervous system freaks out. Your nervous system is really, really good at keeping you safe. That's its whole job. Well, it's a big part of its job, and it can keep you safe best with what it knows. So if you are starting to change your circumstances, no matter what that happens to be, your subconscious is going to freak out and it's going to pull you back to what it knows because it knows how to keep you safe there. So if we try to change too much, too fast, you're literally fighting your subconscious to get there and stay there until it knows that it's safe there because your body won't feel good if it doesn't feel safe. And if we go little step by little step by little step, it's almost as if, you're tricking it. It's like, this thing's too small. It's not going to actually matter. It's fine. We can keep that up for a while. And then it just becomes part of your normal. And then you do the next thing. It's like if you think of a really big ladder and the rungs are really close together, it's probably going to take you a bit of time to get up it, but every step is manageable. You can climb that ladder. And if you slip, you're not falling far. But if the rungs are really far apart,
Mhm.
every rung is going to be really hard to get at. And at some point, you're going to be sitting there just, I can't reach the next rung, and you're going to bail. Like, we try not to let you bail.
Ugh. Oh, that's fantastic. You know, it does, and nobody wins when they fight the subconscious, right?
No,
No.
but
It's
because it's subconscious, like you're
yeah,
not aware that that's what's going on,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
you
You're
just beat
supposed to
yourself
stick
up
to
for
your rules.
failing again when you didn't fail. There was nothing failing going on there. You may have just been trying the wrong approach for what your body was asking for.
That's a really great lead into actually talking about perfectionism and how how it's the total standstill for us in our life, where we think that we have to completely overhaul our bodies and our nutrition and everything to have the perfect diet, right? And so can we lean into that a little?
Yeah, trying to be perfect, try to stick to any plan all the time, 100%. You are setting yourself up to fail because perfection doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So if you're only going to do it, if you can go all in, do all the things, you're
Hmm.
never going to get there because there's always going to be something that's like, oh, I can't give it everything right now because, we just need to wait for soccer season to be done and then I'll have the time. But you know what? When that happens, something else is on your plate. So,
Yeah.
like, there won't ever be a time where anything can be perfect. But we've all it's what we were taught growing up, right? Do better, do better, do more, be perfect, do all the things. And it holds so many of us back because, like, how many of us won't even try something if you don't think you can give it your all? And it's been one of my biggest growth points, actually, personally, is doing something, even though I know I'm going to suck at it, is really, really, really hard to do. And I actually have a 35-kilometer, I'm not calling it a race, event this weekend that I'm going to do. And I'm just hoping to finish it. Like, I will likely be last in my category. I will be stoked if I finish it.
Yeah.
And like me 10 years ago would not have attempted this. Me 10 years ago did my last half marathon and said, my body can't do that again. Like that is no longer a realistic ask. Maybe I'll do some smaller ones, but you know what? A half marathon's 22K. I'm doing 35 on Saturday, and that's like you can't use your age or perfectionism or anything else as an excuse. You just need to like go. So if you're sitting there and you're blaming age for your fatigue or anything else that you like to, oh, I'm just getting older. I can't do that anymore. It's it's total bullshit. One of my coaches is mid 40s. She just competed for one of her first like big Ironman's not the right word, but a really high up like fitness competition.
Yeah.
She got second. She's been invited to nationals.
Wow.
One of my other coaches is in her mid 50s. She's literally doing the 100K this weekend instead of like the 35. Like
Just
age
for
is not
funsies.
an excuse. You just can't let perfectionism hold you back.
Yeah.
Like neither of them went in there expecting to be perfect. They just gave it a go.
I just gave it a go. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm training for a triathlon this summer. And again, my mind's like, I'm going to get this time and I'm going to nail it. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it.
Hmm.
I'm just going
It's
to do
such a
it.
hard shift.
Yeah. I'm just going to show up. And you know what? I'm even going to have fun while I'm there. I'm not going to try to do anything. I'm just going to go and I'm going to like it. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's really hard, especially growing up with the competitive background. Like I
Yeah.
competed at a national level on the high school wrestling team. So like you want to go out, you want to do well, you want to do all the things, like pretty competitive person. So being able to be okay with, I'm probably going to be last.
Yeah.
Like maybe not, but I'm okay if I am, is like a really big shift.
It is. And competition is fun to a certain point, right? Like when you're racing against other people, it does pull out a part of you where you're like, okay, I can do this. I can, it does
Mhm.
pull out a bit of performance, but to also be okay with, I'm not going to be the fastest in the world. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a bit of healthy competition. It can make everybody step up their level, right? But you can't just be like, I'm not going to do it if I'm not going to win.
Yeah. Pretty much. Now, okay, you're talking about you can't blame age for energy levels. And where is our steady stream of energy coming? Because that's something you help people with a lot is skyrocketing their energy.
Yeah, energy is, when I get on board people, they have an intake form and they have a list of goals and concerns that we're working on.
Yeah.
No matter what the other three or four are, energy is always one or two,
Yeah.
which blows my mind that like everybody that's coming out struggles with fatigue and their energy. And just as an analogy, you wouldn't put a quarter tank of gas in your car and expect it to get you across the country,
Ooh, no.
right? Like it just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So, like, why are we underfeeding ourselves and undernourishing ourselves and are expecting our bodies to do all the things? Like, we're literally not giving it what it needs to do what we're asking it to do. And then we're wondering why it's not doing the thing.
Mhm.
Like, it's pretty straightforward. If you give it the fuel, it might take some time to catch up,
Yeah.
but bodies are really, really incredible at healing and coming back to like a place of balance as long as you can give it what it needs to do so and remove the things that are preventing that from happening. So, like if you're eating a food that your body really does not agree with, you're really not going to be at your best until you remove that food. And then things can kind of fall back into balance. Not necessarily don't have it ever, but once you figure out, like, oh, I really don't feel that great when I have dairy, you're going to be more picky about when it's worth it to eat it. Yeah, sometimes you're probably going to go for ice cream and then deal with not feeling great later.
Yeah.
But once you know what foods your body feels better without, you can plan when it's worth having it. If you have something you need to feel good for,
Yeah.
you're probably going to avoid the things that make you feel like garbage for a little bit before so that you can feel your best going into what it is that you want to feel good for.
That's true. There was this little farmer's market in Invermere when I was there once. And normally dairy is not something I do, but there's this like old Baba who made Nanaimo bars. And I was like, I'm going for this. And I have never tasted anything that good. That was totally worth it. But the old run-of-the-mill stuff you get from the grocery store, not worth it. No,
Yeah,
no, totally
there'll
not.
be things that are worth it. You just gotta make that call.
Oh, so worth it. So worth it. Now, how do we know what's not like what are the signs that because we're so out of tune a lot of the times. What are the signs that our body's like, no, thank you, that we're ignoring?
Many people are so far off of how good they can feel, it's really hard to find where to start. Some people I start with just making sure they have like enough fuel, they're actually eating enough and enough nutrient dense foods, not just like the processed things that aren't actually giving your body the vitamins and minerals that you need. Other people, we start with more blood sugar regulation. If your blood sugar's spiking and crashing, you don't have to be diabetic or pre-diabetic for blood sugar to be seriously messing up your system. And then other people will start with an elimination diet. So, like if we suspect food sensitivities, that's where we're starting first. So, depending on the symptoms that somebody comes to me with, we'll choose which is the best place for them. Like a lot of times, if people have, headaches or fatigue, general things, it could be anything. And we're going to go through like a big in-depth, history, ask you a ton of questions to try and figure out where it is realistic to start with you.
Yeah.
And even like blood work and labs and stuff can come in there too, because everything's a different piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And then, like, if somebody has, psoriasis or eczema or anything along those lines, that's a really strong indicator that you have a food sensitivity going on that we should probably handle first.
Okay. Yeah. People search for years for psoriasis.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Food. Sneaky, sneaky
It's
food.
not 100%, nothing's 100%, but like very, very often
Yeah.
it's food based.
It's food based.
Yeah.
Okay. And okay, so that's our sensitivities. And then what is eating to keep your blood sugar look like? What does that look like to keep that stable through the day, since that's a key factor in energy levels?
It really is. I always find my explanations do better with a bit of a backstory to it.
Yeah.
So, your body is really, really good at keeping you alive right now.
Yeah.
If keeping you alive long term
Hmm.
doesn't matter if it thinks you're dying in the next hour. So there's certain things that your body views as a threat right now. So
Yeah.
like temperature, for example, if you get too cold, you're going to get hypothermia and you die. If you get too hot, again, heat stroke, you die. So, like your blood sugar is another one of those things that there's a pretty narrow range that your body operates best in. So, if your blood sugar goes too low, your brain doesn't have fuel, you go into a coma and you die. If it goes too high, lots of other shit goes on. Again, you're gonna die. Um, Diabetics need to control that without the systems that are in their bodies. The rest of us are fortunate enough that all of that control goes on without us being aware of it. So, like when it's going too high, your body will release insulin that triggers your cells to take the sugar out of your blood, keep it in that nice range. If it's going too low, your body will trigger um, either a stress response to shoot your blood sugar back up, or it's going to make you eat something that is very quickly going to hit your bloodstream. Simple carbs, candies, like a lot of those cravings that people get is their body trying to keep you alive. And that's why it's so hard to fight because it's literally a survival instinct that is making you reach in the cupboard, which is pretty crazy. But often, because there's such dramatic shifts, if it's
Mhm.
going up really fast, it thinks that it needs to bring it down because if it gets too high, that's not safe for your body. And often bodies overreact. So it pumps out too much and it crashes. What happens when it crashes is your body freaks out again because it's going out of that safe normal zone and it brings it back up. So if we can avoid the spike crash roller coaster right from the beginning of the day, the rest of the day is so much smoother.
Yeah.
Because a really neat thing about your blood sugar is a lot of the symptoms we get isn't necessarily from where it actually is in the scale of being really low or being high,
Yeah.
but it's the change. So if it's going up quickly, we get
Yeah.
symptoms because of that spike. Or if
Yeah.
it's falling quickly, we get symptoms because it senses the fall. So, like, it can still be in a very safe range, but if it's tanking fast, your body's still going to get the same symptoms and the same cues as if it was actually really low. So, a lot of people who are like, oh, I've got low blood sugar, I need to go have a Snickers. Um, it could be a pretty safe higher number, but their body is throwing out the symptoms as if it was really low because it feels it crash really, really fast. And once you start that roller coaster in the day, all the things that come with it last pretty much all day. Your body will reset overnight usually. So if we can start your day with a solid source of protein and some plants, protein and fiber are really, really key to keeping things stable.
Yeah.
If you think of how fast you can eat a donut or a bag of chips or a bunch of candies, it's really, really fast.
Yeah.
So if you can eat it really fast,
Yeah.
chances are it's hitting your bloodstream really fast. So if you think about things that take you a long time to eat, salads or like a hearty soup will take you forever to actually chew and eat. Proteins are going to take you some time to actually chew and eat. And then it's hitting your bloodstream nice and slow and stable. And we want to keep that curves. We don't want spikes. So if you can have a solid source of protein, like we're talking at least 20 grams of protein, depending on the size of the human, up to like 45 grams of protein with each meal,
Mhm.
that's going to dramatically smooth out those spikes and crashes, just that one thing. So like I wear a CGM, not all the time, but a continuous glucose monitor. So it's one of those like arm sensors that you'll see a lot of diabetics and stuff wear, and you can just scan it with your phone and it tells you what your blood sugar is, so you don't have to like do the finger pricks all the time.
Yep.
And I wear them just for informational purposes often. I used to crash a lot. It was behind a lot of my symptoms. But because my labs were normal, because my average was normal, it can do this, and
Right.
your average is still normal. So the number that you get at the doctor's office tests the average of the last 3 months. So it can show normal, and you can still have blood sugar regulation issues behind the scenes. So I worked to see what was going on. Absolutely, I was tanking all the time. So then I really started paying attention. One day for lunch, I had like a quinoa salad packed with veggies, like it was probably half vegetables, half quinoa, and I had chicken legs with it. Super awesome, right? Quinoa is a high fiber, high protein grain packed with veggies. You'd think it'd be great.
Yeah.
Ate it all together one day. The next day, the exact same lunch,
Yeah.
but it wasn't convenient for me to eat the chicken at the same time. I had the chicken about half an hour later. The blood sugar spike was double.
What?
I ate it separately compared to
No
eating it
way.
together. So, like, just blows my mind. That right there, because it was identical foods, just that one thing was different,
Yeah.
was really, really eye-opening to me how important protein at the same time
Yeah.
is. Because protein takes a really long time to digest in your stomach, so it slows down the rest of the stuff, which means hits your bloodstream nice and slow and smooth and steady. If you just have your carbs, they don't spend a lot of time in your stomach and they carry on and they hit your bloodstream pretty quick.
Okay. And so quinoa counts as carb.
Yes, yeah,
Mm.
quinoa is absolutely a carb.
Okay. Then what do you do for the plant-based people who are like, well, I don't eat meat. How do I stuff that down without eating tubs of protein powder?
It's a challenge. Bodies are really, really adaptable.
Mm.
If people are okay with soy, that's really, really helpful. It is more of a challenge if people are not okay with soy.
Yeah.
Um, Tofu, tempeh, anything that's like the soy based is like a solid base of protein.
Mhm.
And other than that, we really have to work on making sure like the fiber in the meal is high enough
Uh-huh.
and making sure that there is still really great sources of protein within that meal. So like combining quinoa, brown rice, or whatever the grain is, you
Mhm.
need to pair it with a legume so that you have like the whole complete protein in there so that your body's not missing pieces of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But wouldn't that still count as carbs then? If you're pairing them like that with if you got the legume and the rice?
They are still carbs, but
Yeah.
because they're more slowly digesting carbs instead of just like, you know, having a cookie, it's
Yeah.
it is still more carbs, but it's handled a little bit differently
Oh,
than if we were just to have them on their own.
yeah. Okay. I know that's something I watch like on like fitness influencers, right? Fitnessers. They're always like, here, make this food with protein powder. It's delicious. And you eat it and it tastes like chalk.
Mhm.
It's horrible.
It really is.
It's horrible.
It's incredibly hard to find a good vegan protein.
Yeah.
They're gross.
Oh, yeah.
But most people don't do well with whey. Even if they think they do, anytime I take people off of whey for a while, when they
Mhm.
have it back, they're like, oh, like that's what was going on in here? Like, no. So it takes a bit of getting used to for the vegan protein powders, but like I eat meat, I eat all different things.
Yeah.
I still have probably a solid scoop and a half of a vegan protein powder most days to my smoothie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Smoothies. I love smoothies. They're so easy to eat. They're so
They
easy.
are.
Yeah.
But they can also very quickly just be a sugar bomb. If you have a bunch of fruit in there and no
Yes.
protein,
Yeah.
yes, fruit has a lot of fiber and vitamins and minerals and really great things for you, but you're still going to spend your blood sugar through the roof if there's not enough protein and fats in your smoothie.
Yeah.
So fats come into play a lot more with vegans and vegetarians as well because they also take longer to digest.
Mhm.
So because their protein's a little bit lower, often we'll bump up their fat a bit to help slow down the carb absorption.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and here's a good thing. Why does eating feel so complicated since we're talking about things that make sense? Why does it feel so complicated?
Because there's so much random information and crap out there. Like this worked for Susie, this worked for so and so, this worked for like all these different people. And then you're trying to fit in, it feels like a word problem from math in high school is like, okay, if you need X grams of protein and this much fiber, and you need 700 billion steps for the day, and you need 9 hours of deep sleep, how many years does Susie need to dedicate to finding the right meal plan? Like, it's pretty ridiculous.
I hope they start putting that in math books.
So, like, I
Oh.
try to keep things as simple as possible. Like, realistically, you can't follow rules all the time. They're not rules, they're guidelines. But, like, anytime that it's reasonable to do so, make sure you have a protein on your plate,
Mhm.
something that grew,
Mhm.
and then a carbohydrate source. And, like, odds are there's fat in there, unless you're purposefully trying to be low fat. You don't need to worry about if you're getting enough because it's in there. It's good stuff. You need fat. Don't try to avoid it. But realistically, if you're getting the other three on your plate,
Mhm.
fat's there too.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
like, just protein, something that grew, and a carb. Doesn't need to be more complicated than that. I mean, some people will get more complicated because they have very specific goals or very specific things that we're working towards. Sometimes, if somebody really needs to work on their sleep, we'll take some carbs from breakfast and we're going to shove it closer to supper because that supports better sleep and like their energy metabolism throughout the day. But it doesn't need to be super complicated. Like, drink your water, eat food, and food that has like nutrition in it, and see how you feel. If something makes you feel like garbage, don't eat it.
My brain would like to make it more complicated than that, you know.
Everybody's does. And it's very, very like in human nature to overcomplicate all the things. It goes with the perfectionism, right? It's like if I don't understand every single little aspect of it, how am I going to do it perfectly? Well, you're not. So just do what you can with what fits into your life at that time, because that's going to be different every day. And just do what you can. Every little bit absolutely adds up. And if you do a little bit today, it's a hell of a lot better than doing nothing.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Um, I'm gonna see if you remember this. Can you tell us about your rare genetic condition? Because I love that about you. I'm pretty sure I have it as well.
I posted a reel the other day saying that, you know, I'm a nutritionist and people ask me all the time, like, why do you eat so much candy when you're hiking? And I followed up to say, it's because I have this rare genetic condition that my body doesn't naturally produce its own candy, so I need to take supplements. And there is absolutely a time and place for simple carbs like candy and all the other things. You
Mhm.
don't have to go without. You just don't want to eat it on its own
Mhm.
if you're not currently exercising, right? You can have it as dessert because you already have all the stuff in your guts that are going to slow that spike down. So
Mhm.
if you want something sweet, have it as dessert, not as the snack unless you're in the middle of exercising, because then your body can just use it as energy right away.
Yeah.
So if you
That
have
was
like a gummy bear addiction, just
yeah.
take up hiking.
Just pair it with hiking. That was, I swear that was the funniest reel I've ever seen. I was like, yes, this is me. So hardcore, right? Now you can go outside and eat candy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Win-win. We're ticking all the boxes.
That's gonna make my kids do. And maybe when we're kids, maybe that's why we metabolize candy so much is because you're always moving while you're eating it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, in your body, your cells cannot just take sugar from your blood. They can't just do it. It's like your blood's going around and your cells are here.
Yeah.
It needs something to make it do it. So insulin activates transporters on your cell that take the sugar from your blood. So if you're insulin resistant, your body needs way more insulin to trigger that same response to take the sugar from your blood into your cells. But exercise works independent of an insulin response. So your muscles working
Yeah.
will cause your cells to take sugar out of your blood to use as exercise. So even if you're insulin resistant,
Yeah.
exercise will bring your blood sugar back down because they are independent systems. So sometimes people will run into trouble if they have a bunch of stuff right before an event, like a hike or a run or a race or cycling, um, that if their blood sugar is going up really fast, right before they go out, they've triggered that insulin response to bring it back down. Very normal response. But they're also moving their muscles. So you have two things that are working independent of each other, bringing your blood sugar back down. So if you know somebody who goes out and just tanks half an hour into what they're doing, they need to adjust their pre-exercise fuel because they have two factors bringing it down at the same time. So beforehand, you want something that's going to keep it nice and stable. But then once you're in the exercise, you want to reach for the candy.
That's why people eat those weird gels and stuff, right? I'd rather eat candy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That depends. The gels can be more efficient depending on what your needs are. We'll
Yeah, okay.
supplement the gels with the candy in between.
Oh, fair. Okay. Okay, and how would you know that you're insulin resistant?
A lot of time you don't. Lots of times people have no idea. You'll go to your doctor, get your regular blood work, whatever, and then be like, oh, your blood sugar's a little high. You probably want to keep an eye on that before it gets like in the diabetic range. And they just send you on your way with like no education, no anything. If you're warned that like you're approaching the pre-diabetic range,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a pre-problem. Pre-diabetic is already outside of the range that you want to be. You
Sure.
want to be down in the like, oh yeah, things look great. That's the range you want to be in for your blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Because, type 1 diabetics, there's nothing we can do. They were born with their own set of problems that they had to deal
Yeah.
with. The rest of us, we have so much control over how our body handles this stuff. Like there is probably rare instances, I'm not saying always, but there is no reason that type 2 diabetes needs to exist. It is almost always strictly diet and lifestyle related. And there are studies out there that, like long-term studies, I forget the actual numbers, but they took one cohort, gave them a placebo, changed nothing. One of them was diet and exercise, and one of them was a medication to bring it back down in the range where you want it to be. The very commonly prescribed medication. And after the end of the study, the people who had the medication, a big percentage of them still ended up being in the type 2 diabetic range. The diet and lifestyle group had so many benefits. Their energy went through the roof. Everything else they were doing, like their overall quality of life was dramatically improved, and they didn't become diabetic. Most of them fixed it so that they weren't even pre-diabetic anymore. So
Wow.
like it is by far
Yeah.
the best thing that we can do, but nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to make change. Change is hard. Just give me a pill. Let me just keep doing what I'm doing because, it's working.
I was Ozempic.
It's not working, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would love that just a pill fixed the things, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's necessary. Absolutely. I'm not dogging medication. Sometimes we need it, and I'm very
Yeah.
thankful that it's there
Yeah.
when we do. But we shouldn't lean on it as a first response.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there is. There is a time and there is a place, and it is a fantastic thing to exist, right? But we do like easy solutions as humans, right? And I think that's because we are like, there's a lot of theories that like, oh, humans are lazy. I think we're just really efficient and we know that it's meant to be easy. What we didn't plan on was there being a whole industry of stuff that was totally palatable and super easy to buy and more convenient, right? Did not
Mhm.
plan on that one. No.
No, and that whole industry
Mhm.
is really, really smart, and they want to make as much money as humanly possible. Do
Mhm.
you remember the craze in like the 80s where fat all of a sudden was bad for you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then like all this fat-free stuff and carb consumption went way, way up. That wasn't science. That was a cereal company. They like across the board worked with governments to change our like the little table that shows like you need this many of this and this many of this, the food guide. They changed the food guide because they sponsored studies, that are going to show what they want them to show, that this is all beneficial. So, in order to drive their cereal, like all grains, cereal grains, sales through the roof, people didn't eat cereal for breakfast. We had high protein, high fat, well-rounded. I mean, sure, there was cereal in there, or bread or grains or whatever, but it wasn't the main part of breakfast.
No.
And through the fat is evil, stay away from fat, is going to murder you, carbs took over breakfast. You look at the numbers now of blood sugar regulation issues compared to before that.
Yeah.
So, like we discussed earlier today, like if you start your day with a big old bowl of carbs, you're fighting that roller coaster all day long. The
Yeah.
odds that you're reaching for something else that that company made throughout the day because of that roller coaster are really, really high. So we were taught a lot of things that had nothing to do with science. It was purely marketing because they wanted to make more money off of us. And
So
a healthy
shady.
population isn't good for margins.
It's really not. No. Well, depending who you are, but not that company. Not that
Yeah.
company. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, oh, here's a fun one. If you were to tell, like, if you were to give me three things that like I could do today to make, doesn't have to be a drastic change, but to start that subconscious, like, I'm just gonna start here, what would I do?
Water. You need to drink water.
How much water?
Well, depends on the size of the human, what you're doing, where you're living. If it's hot, you need more. But probably 2 liters a day for average person is probably a good goal. If you're pounding back tons of water, you're actually going to be flushing minerals out of your system that you need. So more is not always better, but water makes everything in your body work more efficiently. If you're dehydrated, your blood is thicker. Like you're not regulating anything as well, from your temperature to your blood sugar to anything is not working as well if you're dehydrated. It just won't. Your body will adapt. You won't be throwing thirst cues anymore because it's used to having 1 glass of water a day. But there's many, many systems that are not working as well as they should be. They're just keeping you alive. So water would by far, I know it's boring, but a lot of the stuff's not like flashy and crazy. It's just simple shit. Drink your water.
Yeah.
And don't drink it all before you go to bed because sleep is so bloody important that if you're up peeing all night long, you're undoing all the goodness you did of drinking all your water. So spread it out, drink your water. Number one. Two, high protein breakfast. Stop that roller coaster before it starts. The rest of the day, no matter what else you do, will be different than if you started it just with carbs. So like you can very easily do that experiment yourself. Like we've all had like toast and peanut butter for breakfast or a bagel. Um, it's delicious. Why wouldn't we do that
Oh,
sometimes?
yes.
But if you don't, for a few days, make a conscious effort to have a high protein breakfast 3 or 4 days in a row, you will notice a difference to your energy through the whole rest of the day. So those two things are amazing. I can only pick one more. Oh, don't eat carbs on their own unless it's during exercise.
Yeah.
So like pair it with protein, have it as dessert. You don't have to not eat them.
Yeah.
But when they're on their own, you're setting off that roller coaster and your body thinks you're dying. So everything that keeps you alive long term, digestion, reproduction, sleep, all of the really great things that we like to do about life,
Yeah.
they don't get the resources that are needed when your body's trying to keep you alive right now. The right now keeping you alive takes all resources available until you're back in that safe zone. So if your body is fighting keeping you alive right now, even though it's just because you had a donut on an empty stomach, nothing else is working in your favor until you're back in that normal zone.
Okay, and what are the ones you really want to give us? Because I limited you to three. You're like, I need more, I need more. What are the other ones?
I don't know. I don't want to overcomplicate things because then you try to do all the things and your brain goes into overdrive.
That's real. Actually,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah. I would too. I'd be like, okay, this is what Amy said. I'm doing all of them every single day.
Um, Sleep is important. Your
Mhm.
body does so much while you sleep.
Mhm.
So, like, prioritize that. Enjoy. You need to prioritize having fun. So, like, beyond that, we're going to get too specific, but it's really, really important to sleep and have fun. Because if you're not, what's the point? Like, you can't just be trudging through everything. And food isn't just fuel. It is, and we need it. But it's like a huge pleasure in life. Like, you can't just like pack it into this tiny little box of, oh, I need X grams of protein today. Well, if you hate what you're doing, you're not going to do it for long. So,
No.
whatever we're doing, we need to make sure that you enjoy what you're doing so that it's sustainable long term. So I'm not going to hand you a plan that you hate because it's the most efficient way to get you where you want to be, because it's not. You're going to fail because you hate it. And then you're not getting where you want to be. So it wasn't that efficient.
Yeah, yeah, no. There's zero benefit to that. No. Fun is everything. Fun is everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And discipline can be fun, right?
Hmm.
Like it doesn't always mean fun doesn't always mean like going to amusement parks, but enjoying stuff and loving what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Taking the time to literally smell the roses while you're hiking your ass up the mountain.
Uh, oh yeah. Yeah, we just did a summit. Me and some friends, we did a summit the other week and I was like stopping and looking at the view and they're just like, "What's my Strava time? How do I get up there faster?" And I'm like, "Dude, did you see that? Like, did you see that over there? It's so beautiful." Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, take a picture. I'll look after I'm done.
Yeah. The pictures are never as good. No. Like you can take there, you can be totally awe-inspired by something like, wow, and then you go back and you slide through your photos, you're like, it's still beautiful, but it's not the same.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finding those moments of awe, no matter how small they are,
Yeah.
I think is important.
Oh yeah. Huge. They're huge. They're the difference between being grounded in your life and your awareness and just being a robot. Yeah. At least that's what I find. Okay, is there anything else you'd want people to know? Or did we cover? I think we covered quite a bit.
We did. Um, Faster is not better.
Mhm.
Faster is not better. Bodies really like slow and steady. It's not the answer anybody wants to hear,
No.
but faster is not better. Your body will physically view a fast weight loss event as a famine. We are fucking cave people running around. Our physiology has not kept up with food being available all the time. So if you lose a lot of weight very quickly, the second there's more calories, your body will prepare for the next famine because it doesn't trust that it's not coming. So if you've ever done the like weight loss yo-yo, your body's preparing for the next famine. It doesn't trust that the food is there because you have shown it there are famines that you need to prepare for. So if you have issues with yo-yoing, slow, slow things down. Your body has to trust that it's not a famine. And then it has time to adjust. It doesn't actively try to pack everything plus some on to prepare for the next famine because winter's coming. But we have food to get through the winter now. So we just need to like make sure that our body trusts that it's going to be okay. But it doesn't listen. We have to show it.
So we lead our bodies essentially. Even though it's doing all of these cool things for us behind the scenes, it's ultimately we're the leaders of it.
Yes, and it always has your survival in mind. So even if it feels like your body is fighting you, it is doing everything it can to keep you alive right now because it doesn't care about your long-term health or any of your goals if it thinks you're dying in 20 minutes. So if what you're doing is, you know, if it thinks you're going through a famine or if it thinks that your blood sugar is going to tank, it's going to do what it needs to do to keep you alive. It's not fighting against you, but we need to work with it, understanding that it's trying to keep you alive and stop making it work so hard to keep us alive. Like
Guilty.
we all are. But like if we give it the resources that it needs, it doesn't have to work so hard. Let's top up the fuel in your tank before you drive across the country. And let's not put diesel in a gas or the other way around because the wrong fuel, eating all your processed crap compared to, nutrient dense real food is not going to have the same impact on your engine, your body.
Okay, and then so you've said this twice, and I did want to touch on that quickly. What is you're talking about feed yourself fuel before you go do the things. What is that fuel that you're talking about? Because it's clearly not candy.
Well, it's food.
Just food, just like whole food, just
Food.
like that protein and those veg that you've been talking about.
Um, we really are individual humans.
Yeah,
A broad recommendation would be like a complex carbohydrate, something with a bunch of fiber in it,
yeah.
with some protein, probably not a lot of fat before a big exercise event.
Mm.
But if your body feels better with something else,
Hmm.
don't do what I'm saying. If your body feels great with this, then that's what works for your body. That's what it adapted to. You don't need to do something just because somebody else says that it's the right thing to do, because we're all very, very different. So if you have a routine
Yeah,
that feels good and works for you,
yeah,
that's awesome. But if you're hitting a wall and you find that something probably isn't working great for you,
yeah.
then we're going to look at what's going on, try to find somewhere that we can tweak a little bit to help support you and your system to do what you're asking it to do.
I love that about you. You're like, don't do it if it doesn't work for you, even if I'm telling you. That's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, then here's a good question. So you're talking, so a long event exercise, probably like an hour or more of intense cardio. What about people who are like waking up and working out fasted? What's that doing to us?
Again, it's super, super individual. Some
Yeah,
people will be totally fine with it.
yeah,
Some people can't.
yeah,
If you feel like garbage, if you try to do that, it's not for you.
yeah,
If you can do it and you feel fine with it,
yeah,
then do it. Like it is very, very individual. You'll find that really intense workouts
yeah,
fasted
yeah,
are probably harder.
yeah.
Some people can get away with it, but most people would find that a lower intensity fasted is going to do better for you. If somebody's dealing with any hormone issues or blood sugar issues, I probably wouldn't recommend working out fasted. Adrenal issues, we're not going to work out fasted.
Yeah. You're like such a wealth of information. It could just keep going all day, couldn't it?
Oh, I just love this shit. It's like so cool how we work.
It is, it is really cool when you start to bring in the piece where you're trusting yourself and listening to your body, but also understanding the solid advice that's out there, like the solid advice, right? The boring, solid stuff. The boring. Yeah, it's cool.
Most of us will take time if you're not used to it before you can really understand what it is your body is trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And like that's where working with a practitioner can really come in handy because you know what? If your body's not used to getting water, you're
Mhm.
not going to get thirst cues. If you're like drastically under eating or chronically under eating, you're not going to get a hunger cue for breakfast. Your body is down regulated to work within what you've given it.
Yeah.
So eating intuitively
Yeah.
usually can't come first for somebody who's starting a health journey
Oh, okay. Okay.
because your nervous system wants to keep you where you are. It knows how to deal with it there.
Okay. So our bodies are always working for us and trying to keep it the same to what we've made it adapt to.
Pretty much, which may not be optimal.
Yeah, may not be optimal. Okay. My gosh. Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I have a really, really hard time with that question because it changes very often. I love barbecue chicken,
Mhm.
but I couldn't only eat it. I would need plants. Um,
Mhm.
I can go
And
forage
candy.
for plants.
You could go, but you can only eat one thing.
I know. I don't know. Probably have to go with barbecue chicken.
Okay, you want to know the workaround? Me and my kids talk about this all the time. Pizza,
A
because you can
pizza
put
has so many
anything.
things on it.
You can put anything on pizza. You can put barbecue chicken. You can put plants. You can make it out of watermelon.
I love that. I have a new answer now.
You have a new answer. Pizza. I can just eat pizza for the rest of my life. And then when it's totally worth it, you can have that really gooey, cheesy pizza,
Absolutely. There's
right?
not much better than gooey cheese.
Yeah, sometimes.
When
Sometimes.
it's what you're craving.
Except if it's like, okay, I have two things that top that. Watermelons that like as soon as you touch it with a knife, it cracks all the way open. And real cantaloupe. Do you remember what cantaloupe used to taste like? Like
It
that
was good.
soft, juicy, fleshy, not like the
I'd have to
cardboard.
say wild strawberries too.
Yeah.
Those itty bitty tiny little like nature Skittles.
Yes. They're so small, wild strawberries.
They are. They're itty bitty tiny.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch on my dog walk route, so I get to shove my face every morning.
Is there really? For any of you who don't know, Amy lives in the most fantastic town. Can I tell them where you live? She lives in Valemont. Valemont or Valemount?
Mount. We are the valley in the
Okay,
mountains.
Valemount. She lives in Valemount. And it's like there's a cool bike park, there's hiking trails, there's like water activities and strawberries, right? So
And
everybody should
really
go there.
epic blueberries later in the season.
Oh, you need to go to this town. Trust me, it's phenomenal. If anybody wants to get in contact with you, how can they do that? Where can they find you?
My website is wildwellnessholisticnutrition.com. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at the same thing. So Wild Wellness Holistic Nutrition, or you can probably just Google me.
You can Google. I will also have links for you too. But thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing all of your wisdom.
I have one more thing. I
Yes,
do have a newsletter that I send out sometimes. So
perfect.
often I'll have recipes in there, any random little, usually it's whatever I've been working on lately,
Yeah,
something that you can incorporate in that's not going to take over everything, but it can be another step in your path.
yeah.
And I also have, it's a PDF, but it's not just tired workbook. So if you're not ready to jump into like a full work with a practitioner, let's get this shit done, it's a workbook that you can just download, and you can either jump to the section that has like the recommendations to follow, or it walks you through how to see like what you're doing and where it isn't really serving you. And then you can adjust from there. So, depending on how much effort you're wanting to put into figuring out why you're not just tired and what's behind that, it has a couple different ways in there that you can, start to work through it and make smaller tweaks to help improve your energy levels without doing anything really big or drastic or having to work with a practitioner.
Oh,
And you
that's a
can find
fun,
that on my
yeah,
website, or there's links to it through all my social media as well.
that's a fantastic place to start. Yeah. Thank you for that.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
I know it's such a good time, right? And as always, always, thank you to the audience. You guys are the reason we show up. You're the reason we do this and share this information. Because not only is it fun in our own lives, but it's fun to share it with other people who get it and who want to know it and who are excited about really adding stuff into them that helps them be the best version of them possible, right? Your highest timeline, walking that path of where you feel really good and where life is fun and enjoyable. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.